They can't process it yet. You can see it on their faces, that half-second delay where recognition tries to load and fails. The way their eyes linger a fraction too long, scanning, recalculating, quietly asking a question they weren't prepared to ask. Because the last time they formed an opinion about you, you were filed under irrelevant. Background, optional, a name that didn't stick, a face that didn't matter, someone they could safely overlook without consequence. And now that old mental file doesn't open anymore. It errors out. It refuses to cooperate. Because the person standing in front of them doesn't match the version they dismissed. And that disconnect is doing damage. They're staring, but not in the way people stare at something beautiful. This is different. This is the look people get when reality contradicts their memory. When the brain scrambles to reconcile two incompatible images, when "who's that?" crashes directly into "oh shit, that's them." You didn't just improve. You didn't just level up. You crossed a threshold they didn't even know existed, and now their internal map is useless. They're trying to play catch-up in real time, and they're failing. What makes it worse for them is that you didn't announce this change. There was no countdown, no dramatic reveal, no public declaration that you were about to become someone they'd have to reckon with. You just arrived, fully formed, calm, present, carrying yourself like you've been here before, even though they know you haven't. And that's the part that rattles them, because people who announce growth are usually still negotiating it. People who perform confidence are still asking for permission. But you're not performing anything. You're simply operating from a place they don't recognize. They keep looking away, then looking back. Double takes, side glances, quick checks to see if anyone else is noticing what they're noticing. And of course they are. Everybody is. The room has shifted, even if no one says it out loud. Conversations lose their rhythm. Energy tilts in your direction without effort. Attention leaks toward you like gravity changed its rules. And you're not chasing it. You're not fishing for it. You're not even acknowledging it. Which only amplifies the effect. Because here's what they still don't understand. The glow-up isn't the clothes. It's not the posture. It's not the face, the body, the presence, or the external polish they're trying to measure. Those are just symptoms. What they're reacting to is the absence of need, the lack of seeking, the fact that you're no longer scanning the room for approval, feedback, or validation. You're not checking where you rank. You're not adjusting yourself to fit the temperature of the space. You're stable inside yourself in a way that disrupts social order without saying a word. They remember the old you. Or at least, they remember the version of you that made them comfortable. The one who didn't disturb the hierarchy. The one who stayed within the lines they drew without realizing it. The one who could be underestimated safely. They remember how easy it was to ignore you back then. How simple it felt to talk over you, dismiss you, reduce you to a footnote in their story. And now they're realizing something uncomfortable. That version of you wasn't weak. It was restrained. It wasn't lost. It was gathering. You can feel their curiosity turning into concern, because admiration would be manageable. Envy would be familiar. But this reaction doesn't fit into either category. This is disorientation. This is the creeping realization that they misjudged someone in a way that has consequences. And people hate that feeling. Not because they were wrong, but because being wrong here means they've been operating on faulty assumptions for a long time. Some of them try to smile at you. Casual, overly friendly. like proximity might grant them access to whatever changed in you. Like warmth can retroactively rewrite how they treated you before. Others go quiet, suddenly unsure of where they stand. They replay old interactions in their head, searching for signs they missed. They're wondering if you always had this in you. If the signs were there, and they just didn't know how to read them. And the answer to that question unsettles them more than they'd like to admit. Because yes, you always had it, but not in a way that was useful to them, not in a way they could recognize, categorize, or control. And you didn't owe them an early preview. That's the part they struggle with. They feel entitled to continuity. They believe people should remain legible, predictable, consistent with the roles assigned to them. When someone violates that expectation without explanation, it feels like a breach of contract they never had the authority to write. They start talking about you when you're not around, quietly at first, then with more urgency. Did you notice? When did that happen? They're different. As if difference itself is a problem to be solved. As if your growth requires a timeline they can audit. They trade theories, new job, new connections, some external factor they can point to so they don't have to confront the truth. That the shift came from inside. That you outgrew the version of yourself they were comfortable with, and you didn't ask permission on the way out. What really scrambles them is how unbothered you are by the attention. You're not basking in it. You're not feeding on it. You're not even acknowledging it. You're treating it like background noise, which is exactly what it is to you now. That tells them everything they don't want to know. That this isn't a phase. That this isn't a performance. That you didn't rise for them, and you're not here to impress them. They try to reinsert themselves into your narrative. Old acquaintances resurface with sudden interest. People who couldn't remember your name now remember your potential. They talk to you like they always believed in you, like they were there from the beginning, and you let them talk. Not out of politeness, out of clarity. Because you can hear the difference between someone who's aligned with who you are now and someone who's just trying to attach themselves to the result. The shift didn't happen overnight, even though it looks that way to them. It took time, pressure, long stretches where nothing on the outside seemed to change at all. Periods where you were invisible in rooms that mattered, underestimated in conversations that shaped outcomes, overlooked by people who thought they were qualified to judge you. And instead of burning energy trying to correct them, you redirected it inward. You simplified, you refined, you stripped away everything that wasn't essential. They thought you disappeared. They thought you faded. They assumed your absence meant failure. That's the mistake people make when they confuse visibility with progress. They only know how to measure movement when it's loud, when it announces itself, when it fits into a familiar success story they've seen before. What they didn't realize is that you were consolidating. You were tightening alignment between who you are and how you move. You were removing friction. And when you finally stepped back into view, you did it without hesitation. That's why this moment feels illegal to them. Not because you broke a rule, but because you exposed one. You revealed how arbitrary their standards always were, how temporary their judgments can be, how quickly the story flips when the person they dismissed returns with undeniable presence. They don't like that, because it means the hierarchy they trusted isn't stable. It means they might be next. They watch how people respond to you now. The way conversations shift when you enter. The way opinions soften. The way resistance dissolves without confrontation. You're not asserting dominance. You're not demanding respect. You're simply existing at a level that commands recalibration, and that's far more disruptive than aggression ever could be. Some of them feel inspired. They won't admit it out loud, but seeing you forces a question they've been avoiding. What if they've been playing small out of habit? What if the limitations they accepted were never real? Others feel exposed, because your presence highlights the gap between who they are and who they've been pretending to be. And instead of addressing that gap, they project discomfort onto you. They say you've changed, like it's an accusation. Of course you've changed. Growth isn't betrayal, it's alignment. You didn't abandon anyone, you just stopped shrinking. And the people who only felt comfortable around you when you were smaller are now revealing the conditions they placed on their support. You see it clearly now. The difference between people who are genuinely happy for you and people who preferred you when you were easier to ignore. The funniest part is that they think this is the end of the transformation. They think what they're seeing now is the final version, the finished product, the peak. They don't realize this is just the first moment it became visible to them. They're reacting to an echo, not the source, to an outcome, not the process. And while they're busy staring, trying to update their perception, you're already moving forward, already adjusting to a new baseline that doesn't include their opinions. You're not trying to be seen anymore. That chapter closed. You're not trying to be understood. That's optional now. You're operating from clarity, not reaction, from intention, not comparison. And the more grounded you become in that position, the more destabilizing it is for people who rely on old narratives to make sense of the world. They keep thinking there must be a moment where this settles, where things return to normal, where you relax back into a version of yourself they recognize. They're waiting for the spike to pass, for the attention to move on, for the glow to dim. But they're misreading the situation. This isn't a spike, it's a recalibration. And once perception shifts at this level, it doesn't revert quietly. You notice it too, not in a dramatic way, just small confirmations, doors opening with less resistance, conversations starting differently, people listening the first time you speak, opportunities presenting themselves without explanation, not because you demanded them, but because your alignment makes friction unnecessary. And you accept these shifts without making a big deal out of them, because you know where they came from. The ones who are staring now will eventually stop. Not because they understand, but because staring requires energy. Confusion gets tiring. They'll either adjust their perception or remove themselves from your orbit. Both outcomes are fine. You're not here to manage their comfort. You're here to move forward in a way that's coherent with who you are now. And here's the part they really don't see yet. This attention, this recognition, this moment where the room tilts toward you. It's not the destination. It's a side effect, a signal that you've crossed into a different phase of operation. One where you no longer need to prove anything to anyone who didn't see you coming. They're still processing the shift from, "Who's that?" to, "Oh shit, that's them." They think that realization is about you. That's the mistake. They assume the shock comes from how different you look, how differently you carry yourself, how the room reacts when you enter. They think the discomfort lives on the surface, that it's cosmetic, visual, something that can be explained away with effort, timing, or luck. But what's actually happening is far more invasive. Their internal ranking systems are malfunctioning. The mental ladders they've relied on for years no longer hold weight. The people they assumed would always be ahead of you no longer feel secure in that position. And once that certainty cracks, everything else starts to wobble. You're not just being noticed, you're being reevaluated retroactively. Old assumptions are being dragged back into the light and inspected under pressure. Conversations they had about you in the past now feel careless, dismissive, premature. They're realizing that the version of you they ignored was never the full picture. It was simply the version they were allowed to see. And that realization brings an uncomfortable follow-up question they don't want to ask themselves. If they were wrong about you, who else have they been wrong about? This is why the staring doesn't stop right away. This is why attention lingers longer than politeness would require. They're not just looking at you. They're checking their own judgment, measuring how badly they miscalculated. Because in their world, perception equals power. Being able to size people up quickly, to know where everyone belongs, to predict outcomes based on familiar markers, that's how they stay comfortable. And you just exposed a blind spot they didn't know they had. What unsettles them most is how little effort it took on your part. From their perspective, the shift seems sudden, dramatic, almost unfair. They didn't see the hours you spent refining instead of reacting. They didn't witness the moments where you chose restraint over explanation. They didn't notice how you stopped volunteering pieces of yourself to people who hadn't earned access. All they see is the result, and results without visible struggle make people suspicious. Because struggle is what makes them feel superior. They start telling themselves stories to cope. That you got lucky, that you found the right angle at the right time, that something external tilted things in your favor. They need these explanations because the alternative is unacceptable. The alternative is admitting that growth doesn't require their recognition to be valid. That someone can move beyond the limits of a role they were assigned without asking permission. That someone can outgrow the frame they were placed in while the people doing the framing remain exactly where they are. You notice the shift in how people speak to you. The tone adjusts. Questions replace assumptions. Statements soften. Even disagreement sounds more careful now. Not because you demanded respect, but because your presence makes casual dismissal feel risky. They don't know what you're capable of anymore, and uncertainty breeds caution. You're no longer someone they can speak over without consequence. You're someone whose reaction they have to consider, even if you rarely give them one. And that's another part they can't quite decode. You're not leveraging this attention. You're not capitalizing on it in obvious ways. You're not asserting yourself louder. You're not stepping on anyone to secure position. You're simply moving forward, unchanged in your pace, unaffected by the noise. That tells them something they don't want to accept, that the recognition arrived late, that whatever they're seeing now was already established before they noticed. Some of them tried to test you. Subtle challenges, slight dismissals disguised as jokes, small power plays meant to see if the old version of you will reappear under pressure. They're looking for confirmation that this is temporary, that you'll flinch, that you'll overreact, that you'll seek reassurance, but you don't. You respond when it's necessary. You disengage when it's not. And the lack of predictable reaction leaves them exposed, standing there with tactics that no longer land. They start paying closer attention to how others respond to you. Who defers, who listens, who mirrors your energy without realizing it. Social environments are ecosystems, and you've become a variable they didn't account for. The flow of influence is adjusting around you, not because you're forcing it, but because alignment tends to reorganize space naturally. People gravitate toward coherence, toward stability, toward someone who doesn't need to perform importance to possess it. What they don't understand is that you're not trying to win the room. You already moved past that goal. Winning rooms is what people do when they need confirmation, when they need applause to validate their direction. You're operating from something quieter and far more effective. You're choosing environments that don't require you to explain yourself. You're investing energy where it compounds instead of leaks, and that makes the attention you receive feel almost incidental. They keep expecting a reveal, a moment where you explain what changed, where you outline the process, where you make it digestible for them. But that moment never comes, not because you're hiding anything, but because you don't owe anyone a breakdown of your internal shifts. Growth doesn't need to be narrated to be real. And the more they wait for an explanation, the more apparent it becomes that they were never part of the conversation that mattered. This is where the confusion deepens, because they're used to growth being legible, trackable, documented. They expect progression to follow a pattern they recognize: credentials, announcements, visible milestones. What you're demonstrating doesn't fit that model. It's not flashy, it's not loud, it's not begging to be seen. It simply works. And things that work without explanation make people uneasy. They replay moments they shared with you in the past, looking for clues, reinterpreting your quiet as something intentional rather than passive, your distance as discernment rather than insecurity. They're realizing that the signs were there, just not in a form they valued at the time. And that realization stings, because it means they weren't as perceptive as they believed. You can feel the shift in how often your name comes up. Not as an afterthought anymore, not as filler, but as reference, as comparison, as a benchmark they didn't expect you to become. And the people who once felt comfortable evaluating you are now measuring themselves against the standard you represent, whether they admit it or not. What's fascinating is how little satisfaction you take from this. Not because you don't notice it, but because you understand it. You know that recognition arriving late isn't a victory. It's just information. It tells you who's paying attention now. It tells you who wasn't paying attention before. And it clarifies where you should and shouldn't invest your time moving forward. They're still stuck on the glow-up narrative, on the visible shift, on the aesthetics of it all. They talk about your confidence, your presence, your composure, as if those were things you put on, as if you woke up one day and decided to become someone else. They don't see that what changed wasn't who you are, but how much friction you removed between your internal state and your external behavior. You stopped negotiating with doubt. You stopped explaining yourself to people who were never listening. You stopped offering access to anyone who treated it casually. And when those changes stacked up, the external shift became unavoidable. Not dramatic, unavoidable. Like gravity adjusting its pull. They're still trying to decide how to place you. Old categories don't fit anymore. You don't belong where they left you. But placing you higher feels like admitting something about themselves they're not ready to face. So they hover in discomfort, oscillating between acknowledgement and resistance, unsure how to proceed. You move through it without rush, without urgency. Because you're not waiting for them to catch up. You're not waiting for consensus. You're not waiting for approval. The direction you're moving in doesn't require an audience, and the people who recognize that are the ones who align with you naturally, without needing explanation. The ones who don't will eventually fade from relevance in your world, not out of spite, out of mismatch. When growth becomes embodied, not announced, it creates distance automatically. You don't have to cut people off. You just stop meeting them where they are. They'll keep staring for a while. They'll keep trying to make sense of the shift using outdated frameworks. They'll keep asking quiet questions they don't want answered. But what they still don't realize is that this moment, the attention, the recognition, the recalibration, it's already behind you. You're not standing at the beginning of something. You're standing in the middle of it. And while they're busy processing the shock of seeing you clearly for the first time, you're already adjusting to a version of yourself that doesn't require their awareness to function. They expected the glow-up to make you louder, more assertive, more eager to be seen. They expected a shift toward performance. Instead, you became more selective, more precise. Your movements got cleaner, your words fewer, and when you do speak, there's no urgency in it, no need to convince. That's unsettling to people who rely on noise to establish relevance. Because noise is easy to challenge, stillness isn't. They watch how you exit situations now, how you don't linger where you're not aligned, how you don't explain your departures. You just move on. And every time you do, it reinforces something they're struggling to accept. That you're not trying to build a case anymore. That you're not collecting evidence to justify your trajectory. You already know where you're going, and that certainty shows up in how little you argue with anyone about it. Some of them feel the urge to confront you, to ask direct questions, to demand clarity. Not because they deserve it, but because uncertainty makes them uncomfortable. They want you to narrate the change so they can file it away, label it, reduce it to something manageable. But you don't offer that. Not out of defiance, out of disinterest. You're not hiding anything. You're just no longer translating yourself for people who don't share your direction. That's when it starts to sink in for them. This isn't a moment they can insert themselves into. This isn't a phase they can influence. They didn't miss a meeting. They missed an entire internal shift that didn't require their presence. And that's a hard realization for people who believe proximity equals importance. You notice how quickly respect replaces familiarity. Old jokes don't land the same way anymore. Casual comments get reconsidered mid-sentence. People weigh their words around you now, even if they don't know why. You didn't ask for that shift. You didn't correct anyone. You simply stopped accepting versions of yourself that were built for convenience. And when you did that, the social contract changed without negotiation. They keep trying to anchor you to the past, mentioning old stories, old roles, old dynamics, as if reminding you of where you came from might pull you back into a shape they recognize. But it doesn't work, because you're not rejecting your past. You've integrated it. You're not trying to escape who you were. You've absorbed it into something more coherent. And people can sense when someone has made peace with their own trajectory. It makes manipulation ineffective. The staring continues, but it evolves. It's less shock now, more assessment. They're trying to understand what this version of you means for them, for their position, for their assumptions, for the way they've been moving through the world. Because when someone upgrades without seeking permission, it forces everyone else to question whether they've been waiting unnecessarily. You don't rush to fill the space their confusion creates. You let it exist. You let them sit with it, not because you want them uncomfortable, but because clarity can't be forced. It arrives when people are ready to see it, and some of them aren't. Some of them will never be. That's not your concern anymore. What's interesting is how quickly the narrative flips once they accept that you're not reverting. Admiration replaces dismissal. Curiosity replaces indifference. And yet, even then, you don't lean into it. You don't become more available. If anything, your standards tighten. Because you understand something they're just beginning to realize. Access is valuable precisely because it's limited. You're no longer impressed by people noticing you late. You're paying attention to who noticed early, who treated you with respect before it was popular, who didn't need proof to offer alignment. Those are the people you move with now, quietly, efficiently, without announcement. And the contrast becomes obvious to anyone watching closely. They think the glow-up changed how others see you. But the deeper shift is how you see others. You're not bitter, you're not resentful, you're clear. You see patterns faster. You recognize intention without needing it spelled out. And that discernment shapes your environment in ways they don't immediately connect to you. Opportunities arrive differently now. Not as invitations to prove yourself, but as confirmations that your positioning is working. You're not chasing validation. You're responding to alignment. And that distinction changes everything. Because it means your momentum doesn't depend on approval cycles. It's self-sustaining. They're still trying to decide whether this version of you is permanent. They look for signs of regression, moments of doubt, slips they can point to as evidence that this was temporary. But they don't find them. What they find instead is consistency, day after day, interaction after interaction. And consistency erodes skepticism faster than any argument ever could. You don't feel the need to announce that you've moved on. You don't post about it. You don't make statements. You simply act from a place that assumes forward motion as the default. And over time, it becomes undeniable. This isn't an act. This isn't a spike. This is how you operate now. They're left with a choice they didn't expect to have to make. Adjust their perception or stay confused. Reevaluate their assumptions or protect their ego. Some will choose growth. Others will choose comfort. You don't wait around to see which they pick. Because while they're still staring, still recalibrating, still whispering to each other about how different you seem, you're already stepping into the next layer of this evolution, and they haven't even finished understanding the last one yet. This is where the distance really starts to show. They notice, of course. They always do. They feel it when access narrows, when replies slow down, when you're no longer readily available to fill roles you outgrew. They tell themselves you've become distant. That success changed you. That recognition went to your head. It's easier to believe that than to admit you were always heading here, with or without them. What they can't articulate is that you didn't leave them behind out of malice. You simply stopped orbiting spaces that required you to dim yourself to belong. You stopped explaining decisions that were obvious to you. You stopped justifying instincts that had proven themselves over time. And once you did that, the gap formed naturally, not as a punishment, as a consequence. They're still staring, but now it's mixed with something else. Calculation. They're trying to figure out how to position themselves relative to you. Whether aligning with you benefits them, whether opposing you costs them, whether ignoring you is still an option. And the fact that they're even asking those questions tells you everything. You've shifted from being background to being a variable they have to account for. You don't rush to define the relationship. You don't clarify where you stand. You let your consistency speak for you. Because you've learned that people reveal more when they're unsure. They show you who they are when they don't know how to place you. And that information is valuable. It tells you who's aligned and who's simply adapting. The glow-up they keep talking about isn't glowing for you. It's grounding. You feel more solid than you ever did when you were chasing acknowledgement. More centered than you ever were when you were trying to be seen. The irony is that once you stopped trying to stand out, you became impossible to overlook. Not because you demanded attention, but because you removed the static that used to dilute your presence. They still try to catch you off guard. Old dynamics resurface in subtle ways. Attempts to re-establish familiarity that no longer fits. Invitations that assume access you no longer grant by default. You decline without drama. You accept selectively. And every choice reinforces the same message, even if you never say it out loud. This is how you move now. What really unsettles them is how little resistance you meet. They expected friction, pushback, some kind of backlash for stepping outside the lane they imagined for you. Instead, doors open. People respond, paths clear, and that forces them to confront an uncomfortable possibility. That the limitations they accepted might have been optional, that the ceiling they respected might not have been real. You see it in the way some of them start mimicking you, adjusting posture, refining speech, simplifying choices. They won't admit where it came from, but influence doesn't require credit to be effective. You've become a reference point, whether you intended to or not. And reference points don't chase acknowledgement. They just exist. Others resist harder. They cling to old narratives. They downplay your progress. They look for flaws to highlight, moments to diminish, angles that restore their sense of superiority. You don't engage, not because you're above it, but because you understand the pattern. Resistance is often a sign that something landed closer to home than they're comfortable admitting. You're not here to convert anyone. You're not here to prove a point. You're here to move in alignment with what feels right to you now. And that alignment has a way of sorting things without effort. People either rise to meet it or drift away from it. You don't chase either outcome. They keep waiting for you to slip, to stumble, to show signs that this was temporary. But what they see instead is integration. Your choices make sense together. Your pace is steady. Your reactions are measured. There's no desperation in how you move. And desperation is what they're used to seeing when someone changes quickly. The absence of it confuses them. You're not trying to be untouchable. You just stopped making yourself accessible to everything. There's a difference. Boundaries aren't barriers. They're filters. And once you install them, your world gets quieter in the best way. Less noise, less distraction, less need to perform. The attention hasn't disappeared, it's just changed texture. Less staring now, more watching. Less shock, more respect. And even that fades into the background as you continue forward. Because attention was never the goal. Alignment was. And now that you have it, you don't trade it for anything. they'll eventually stop talking about how much you've changed. That conversation runs out of energy once it stops producing clarity. They'll replace it with something else. New topics, new people, new distractions. That's how it always goes. What stays is the shift in how they treat you when you're not around. The caution, the acknowledgement, the awareness that you're no longer someone they can reduce easily. You don't linger on that either. You're already focused elsewhere, on building, refining, expanding in ways that don't require an audience, on environments that challenge you instead of shrinking you, on connections that feel mutual instead of transactional. And the more you invest there, the less relevant the old dynamics become. They still remember the moment they realized who you were. That internal jolt, that recalibration, that instant where "who's that?" collapsed into "oh shit, that's them." That moment sticks with people. Not because of you, but because it marks the point where their perception failed them. And nobody forgets the moment their certainty cracks. You carry on without referencing it, without replaying it, without needing it to mean anything, because you know something they're still learning. Recognition is fleeting. Alignment compounds. And you chose the one that lasts. They can keep processing, keep staring, keep adjusting their frameworks to make sense of you. It doesn't slow you down. It doesn't speed you up. It doesn't factor into your decisions at all. You're already past the moment they're stuck on. Already living in the version they're still trying to name. Already moving in ways they haven't learned how to track. And by the time they finally think they understand what happened, you'll be so far into what comes next that it won't even matter anymore.